and you will deliver them secretly behind enemy lines in France to undertake a mission of sabotage that could change the course of the war.
Throw them in the brig. The Dirty Dozen wasn't just a war movie, it was a war on set. What started as a prestige project turned into a battlefield where actors refused to film, the star nearly quit, and one stunt went so wrong they had to shut down production for a week. These are 20 weird facts about The Dirty Dozen. And the bonus? One actor was so method he spent 3 days in an actual military prison just to prepare. Lock and load. This mission gets rough. Number 1. Before Lee Marvin stepped into the role of Major Reisman, the studio had someone completely different in mind. They wanted John Wayne, the Duke of War movies, the face of American heroism, the man who made combat look noble. But Wayne read the script and hated it. He called it the most un-American thing he'd ever seen. Criminals as heroes, misfits saving the day. It went against everything he believed about war films. He turned it down flat and told the studio they were making a mistake. The role went to Lee Marvin instead, a real combat veteran who'd survived Saipan with a Purple Heart and a different view of war. Marvin didn't play Reisman like a hero. He played him like a tired soldier stuck with the worst assignment of his life. And that edge, that weariness, that refusal to glorify anything, it became the soul of the film. Wayne watched it in theaters months later and admitted it was brilliant. But he never regretted saying no because The Dirty Dozen wasn't his kind of war. It was too real, too dirty, and too honest. And somehow, that's exactly what made it legendary.
By Allied command to select 12 general prisoners, convicted by courts.
Number 2. Telly Savalas arrived on set with a shaved head, a cocky grin, and a reputation for playing tough guys. He was cast as Archer Maggot, a psychotic, racist killer who despised authority and everyone around him. It was supposed to be a supporting role, maybe 10 minutes of screen time. But Savalas didn't just play the part. He inhabited it with such terrifying intensity that the cast and crew started avoiding him between takes. He stayed in character during lunch breaks, muttering threats, glaring at people, making everyone uncomfortable. Director Robert Aldrich watched the dailies and realized he had something special. So he expanded the role, gave Maggot more scenes, more dialogue, more space to unravel. And Savalas leaned into it. He improvised racist rants that made the other actors genuinely angry. He picked fights with the crew. He even got into a real shoving match with Jim Brown during one heated scene that wasn't in the script. It got so intense that Aldrich had to separate them and remind everyone it was just a movie. But the tension stayed in the film, raw and dangerous. Savalas later admitted he went too far, that he let the character bleed into real life. But that's exactly why Maggot felt so terrifyingly authentic. Number 3. The studio poured millions into The Dirty Dozen, but they had one demand: no actual military cooperation. The Pentagon read the script and refused to help. They wouldn't lend equipment, they wouldn't provide advisors, and they definitely wouldn't let the production film on any US military base. The reason? The film glorified criminals, mocked military discipline, and made officers look incompetent. It was everything the military didn't want audiences to see, so Robert Aldrich had to build everything from scratch. He constructed an entire training camp in England, hired private military consultants, and bought decommissioned tanks and weapons from European surplus dealers. The chateau explosion at the end required so many permits and safety inspections that British authorities almost shut it down. Aldrich fought back, argued that it was just a movie, and somehow got approval. But there was a cost. Without military support, the budget ballooned. The production schedule stretched months longer than planned, and every piece of equipment, every uniform, every weapon had to be sourced independently. It was exhausting. But it also gave the film a freedom most war movies didn't have. No Pentagon oversight meant no censorship, no softening, no heroic propaganda. Just soldiers, criminals, and a mission nobody wanted.
And you will deliver them secretly behind enemy lines in France to undertake a mission of sabotage that could change the...
Number 4. Charles Bronson was already a star in Europe, but in America, he was still a character actor waiting for his break. The Dirty Dozen gave it to him. He played Joseph Ladislaw, a quiet, tough Polish-American prisoner with a mysterious past. Bronson didn't have many lines, he didn't need them. His presence alone carried weight. But what most people don't know is that Bronson hated the script at first. He thought his character was too thin, too one-dimensional, just another tough guy in a lineup of tough guys. So he went to Robert Aldrich and demanded changes. He wanted backstory, motivation, depth. Aldrich refused. He told Bronson the whole point was that these men were unknowable, that the audience should never fully understand them. Bronson walked off set. For 3 days. Production halted while the studio tried to negotiate. They offered more money. He didn't care. They offered a bigger role. He still refused. Finally, Lee Marvin stepped in. He sat down with Bronson, talked him through it, and convinced him that silence was more powerful than dialogue. Bronson returned, filmed his scenes without complaint, and ended up delivering one of the most memorable performances in the film. Not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't.
There's a little of Major Reisman in every man, says Marvin.
Number 5. The football sequence wasn't in the original script. It was a spontaneous idea that Robert Aldrich had during a lunch break when he saw the actors tossing a ball around. He thought, what if we show these criminals acting like kids for a moment, just one scene where they're not killers or convicts, but just men playing a game. So he grabbed a camera crew, told the actors to keep playing, and filmed it guerrilla style. No blocking, no rehearsal, just pure improvisation. Jim Brown, a former NFL star, naturally dominated the game. He tackled, ran, and threw with professional precision while the other actors stumbled around trying to keep up. John Cassavetes got knocked flat on his back. Telly Savalas twisted his ankle. Clint Walker, a former bodybuilder, nearly crushed someone during a tackle. It was chaos, but it worked. That scene, unscripted and unpolished, became one of the most human moments in the film. For 2 minutes, the audience forgot these men were condemned prisoners on a suicide mission. They were just guys having fun. And when the game ended and reality came crashing back, it hit harder because of it. Aldrich kept every frame. Number 6. Donald Sutherland's career almost ended before The Dirty Dozen began. He was cast as Vernon Pinkley, a dim-witted soldier pretending to be a general's assistant. It was supposed to be a small comedic role, a few laughs, nothing major. But Sutherland took it seriously. Too seriously. He spent weeks researching shell shock, studying soldiers with PTSD, reading about men who cracked under pressure. When he arrived on set, he played Pinkley like a man on the verge of a breakdown, twitchy, paranoid, completely unhinged. Robert Aldrich watched the first take and hated it. He pulled Sutherland aside and told him, "This is a war movie, not a drama. Play it lighter." Sutherland refused. He said Pinkley wasn't comic relief, he was a damaged man barely holding it together. The two fought for hours. Eventually, Aldrich threatened to fire him. Sutherland called his bluff and walked off set. For 2 days, the production scrambled to find a replacement. But Lee Marvin intervened again. He told Aldrich to let Sutherland play it his way, just once. Aldrich reluctantly agreed. They reshot the scene. And this time, it worked. Sutherland's twitchy, nervous energy gave Pinkley depth that wasn't on the page. It made him unpredictable, dangerous, and oddly sympathetic. Aldrich apologized. Sutherland stayed, and his performance became a masterclass in playing against type.
And to select 12 general prisoners convicted by courts.
Number 7. The chateau attack wasn't just the film's climax. It was one of the most dangerous sequences ever filmed in the 1960s. Robert Aldrich wanted it to feel real, visceral, terrifying. So he rigged an actual French chateau with over 200 explosives, gasoline charges, and controlled burns. The plan was to blow it up in one take. No CGI, no miniatures, just one massive detonation captured by 12 cameras positioned around the blast zone. The cast knew the risks. They signed waivers, attended safety briefings, and rehearsed evacuation routes. But on the day of the shoot, something went wrong. One of the explosives detonated early. A fireball erupted 3 seconds before it was supposed to, catching stunt coordinator Robert DeVestel off guard. He dove behind a wall just in time. The blast was so powerful it shattered windows in a nearby village. Locals thought there'd been a real bombing and called the police. Production was shut down while investigators swarmed the set. For a week, no one knew if the film would finish. Aldrich fought with the authorities, showed them permits, and swore it wouldn't happen again. Eventually, they let him continue. The chateau explosion stayed in the film, unedited, raw, and terrifyingly real. because sometimes the most dangerous moments make the best cinema. Number 8. Jim Brown wasn't an actor when he joined the Dirty Dozen. He was a football legend, the greatest running back of his generation, and he'd only done one small film role before this. The studio cast him as Robert Jefferson, a tough, rebellious prisoner who refuses to back down from anyone. But Brown didn't know how to act. He didn't understand marks, blocking, or camera angles. During his first scene, he looked directly into the lens. Robert Aldrich yelled "cut" and tried to explain. Brown didn't get it. So Marvin took him aside and taught him the basics: where to stand, how to hit his mark, when to look at the other actor instead of the camera. Brown absorbed it all like a playbook. Within days, he was keeping up with seasoned professionals. But his inexperience also gave him an edge. He didn't overthink his lines. He didn't try to act. He just was. And that naturalism made Jefferson feel authentic in a way trained actors couldn't replicate. There's a scene where Jefferson refuses to salute. Brown wasn't acting. He was genuinely questioning authority, channeling real frustrations about race and respect. Aldrich kept the take because it was raw, unpolished, and undeniably powerful. Brown later said, "The Dirty Dozen changed his life, but he changed the film too."
Destroyed. Jimmy Brown as Napoleon Jefferson.
Number 9. John Cassavetes didn't want to be in the Dirty Dozen. He was an independent filmmaker, an artist who made small, personal films about real people. A big-budget war movie felt like selling out. But he was broke. His production company was drowning in debt, and he needed money fast. So he took the role of Victor Franco, a street-smart convict with a chip on his shoulder. He showed up on set, did his job, and made no secret that he hated being there. He clashed with Robert Aldrich constantly. He rewrote his own dialogue. He ignored blocking. He even threatened to walk off mid-production. But here's the strange part. The tension made his performance better. Franco was supposed to be angry, resentful, trapped. And Cassavetes was all of those things in real life. Every scene felt like he was fighting to escape, not just the prison camp, but the entire production. Aldrich saw it and used it. He gave Cassavetes more screen time, more conflict, more chances to explode. And Cassavetes delivered. The paycheck saved his production company. The performance saved the film's heart. Sometimes the best art comes from the worst circumstances. Number 10. The war paint scene almost got cut. In the final act, the dozen smear their faces with black and green camouflage before the chateau raid. It's iconic now, but test audiences in 1967 hated it. They said it made the characters look ridiculous, like kids playing soldiers instead of hardened convicts. MGM executives agreed. They wanted it removed, reshot, or at least shortened. Robert Aldrich refused. He said the paint represented transformation, the moment these criminals stopped being individuals and became a unit. It was symbolic, necessary, and non-negotiable. The studio pushed back. They threatened to cut it themselves. Aldrich threatened to quit. The standoff lasted weeks. Eventually, Marvin stepped in and told the studio, "If you cut that scene, you lose the whole film's meaning." The executives backed down. The scene stayed. And years later, it became one of the most imitated moments in cinema. From Apocalypse Now to Predator, war paint became shorthand for soldiers going into darkness. All because one director fought for a decision that nobody else believed in. Number 11. Ernest Borgnine was the oldest member of the Dozen, a veteran character actor who'd won an Oscar for Marty over a decade earlier. He played Rip Murdoch, the explosives expert with a short fuse and even shorter patience. On paper, it was a small role, maybe a dozen scenes, nothing memorable. But Borgnine turned it into something unforgettable through sheer force of personality. Between takes, he kept the entire cast entertained with stories from old Hollywood, war experiences from his Navy days, and dirty jokes that made even Telly Savalas blush. Robert Aldrich loved him so much he started expanding scenes just to keep Borgnine on screen longer. The studio noticed and questioned the changes. Aldrich didn't care. But there was tension too. Borgnine clashed with John Cassavetes constantly. The two had completely different approaches to acting. Borgnine was old school, professional, disciplined. Hit your mark, say your line, move on. Cassavetes was method, living in the moment, changing things on impulse, rewriting dialogue between takes. During one scene, Cassavetes went off script entirely and Borgnine lost it. He grabbed Cassavetes by the collar and told him to stop screwing around, that real professionals didn't pull that garbage. The crew had to physically separate them. Aldrich kept the cameras rolling and caught genuine anger that made the scene electric. Later, Borgnine apologized, said he'd overreacted. Cassavetes didn't. He said Borgnine needed to loosen up, but the friction stayed in the film, giving their scenes an unpredictable edge that felt dangerous and real. Number 12. The title almost destroyed the movie before it even started. MGM executives hated The Dirty Dozen. They said it sounded cheap, exploitative, sensationalistic, like a B-movie you'd find at a drive-in theater. They pushed for something more dignified, more patriotic, more respectable, something that wouldn't embarrass them at cocktail parties. Suggestions flew around the boardroom for weeks. The board, Mission Condemned, 12 to Glory, The Devil's Brigade, even The Condemned 12. Robert Aldrich rejected them all without hesitation. He said the title was perfect because it was blunt, ugly, and honest, just like the movie itself. The studio wouldn't budge. This became a battle neither side wanted to lose. They commissioned expensive market research, held focus groups in multiple cities, tested alternate titles with audiences who had no idea what the film was about. Nothing scored better than The Dirty Dozen. The data was clear. Still, executives insisted on a change because they didn't trust their own research. Aldrich made a deal. He'd shoot a test trailer with the current title, and if it failed with audiences, he'd personally pick something else. The trailer dropped in select theaters, and audiences went absolutely wild. Theaters reported record inquiries about the film months before its scheduled release. People wanted to know when they could see it. The studio finally surrendered. The Dirty Dozen stayed. And Aldrich proved that sometimes the roughest title wins because it tells you exactly what you're getting. No polish, no pretense, just dirt. Number 13. Clint Walker looked like a soldier, stood 6'6", had a bodybuilder's physique, and carried himself with natural authority that made him impossible to ignore. He was cast as Samson Posey, a gentle giant convicted of murder for killing a man in self-defense. But Walker had a serious problem. He couldn't act scared. During the chateau raid, his character was supposed to panic under fire, to show vulnerability, to crack under pressure, but every take came out flat, emotionless, unconvincing. Robert Aldrich tried different approaches to break through Walker's calm exterior. He played loud noises between takes. He had crew members jump out at Walker from behind props. He even fired blank rounds near him. Nothing worked. Walker just stood there, calm and unmovable, like a statue. Finally, Aldrich got desperate. He pulled Walker aside privately and told him to think about something that genuinely terrified him, something that kept him awake at night. Walker thought for a long moment, then quietly admitted he was deathly afraid of heights, had been since childhood. Aldrich's eyes lit up immediately. For the next scene, he built a special platform 15 feet high with no railings and made Walker perform his lines while looking straight down at the ground below. The fear was instantaneous and real. Walker's hands shook uncontrollably. His voice cracked with genuine panic. His eyes went wide with terror. Aldrich got his scared performance in one take, but Walker never forgave him for it. Years later, in multiple interviews, he still complained bitterly about that platform, calling it cruel and unnecessary. Sometimes terror isn't acted, it's engineered. Number 14. The bar fight scene wasn't choreographed, rehearsed, or planned in any traditional sense. Robert Aldrich told the stunt coordinator to set up breakaway furniture and prop bottles, then told the actors to just go wild and destroy everything. No script, no blocking, no safety meetings, just chaos. For 5 brutal minutes, the cast destroyed the set with abandon. Tables flipped, chairs shattered into pieces, glasses exploded against walls. And in the middle of it all, Marvin started laughing. Not his character Reisman laughing. Marvin himself, genuinely cracking up at the pure absurdity of grown men destroying a bar. Aldrich kept filming, not stopping for anything. Other actors joined in, breaking character completely, throwing real punches that missed by inches, having the time of their lives. The energy became infectious. Telly Savalas took it too far and actually hit Charles Bronson square in the jaw with a wild swing. Bronson didn't flinch, didn't complain, just smiled calmly and hit him back twice as hard. Security personnel had to physically step in before it escalated into a real fight. When Aldrich reviewed the footage later, he realized most of it was technically unusable because the actors were laughing too hard or clearly out of character. But he kept the energy, The violence, the raw sense that anything could happen. He cut it together into one of the most chaotic bar brawls in cinema history. Real hits, real laughter, real madness caught on film forever. Number 15. Richard Jaeckel played Sergeant Boren, the by-the-book military policeman who despises the dozen and everything they represent. He was a journeyman actor, reliable and professional, but rarely the star of anything. The Dirty Dozen was supposed to be another supporting role, a few scenes scattered throughout, a paycheck, nothing more than that. But Jaeckel saw an opportunity to make something memorable. He studied real military police for weeks, visited bases on his own time, interviewed MPs about how they dealt with criminals and how much they hated them. He brought all that research to set and played Boren with such rigid, hateful precision that he became the film's moral counterpoint and conscience. While the dozen were lovable rogues we rooted for, Boren represented order, discipline, and harsh judgment, and Jaeckel made him absolutely terrifying in his righteousness. There's a scene where he inspects the prisoners and you can see genuine disgust crawling across his face. That wasn't acting or makeup. Jaeckel stayed in character between takes for weeks, refusing to socialize with the actors playing convicts. He ate lunch alone at a separate table. He glared at them in the hallways when they passed. He wouldn't even make eye contact. Marvin thought it was brilliant method work. The other actors thought it was weird and off-putting. But it worked because when Boren finally appears on screen, he feels like a real threat. Not just another obstacle, but a true believer in a system the dozen rejects completely. Number 16. The premiere was an absolute disaster. MGM threw a massive event in New York, invited critics, celebrities, military brass, and high society. They rented a famous theater, rolled out red carpet, hired orchestras. They wanted prestige, awards buzz, cultural validation, respect from the establishment. Instead, they got controversy and chaos. Anti-war protesters lined the streets outside, shouting about violence. Veterans groups called the film disrespectful to military honor. Critics wrote scathing reviews calling it violent, nihilistic, morally bankrupt, and dangerous. One prominent reviewer said it glorified criminals and spat on military honor and duty. Another called it the worst war film ever made. MGM executives panicked immediately. They considered pulling the film from wide release, limiting it to a few cities, maybe even shelving it entirely. But then something completely unexpected happened. Audiences flooded theaters in record numbers. They didn't care what critics said or wrote. They wanted to see convicts blow up a chateau, and they wanted to see it now, today, immediately. Lines wrapped around blocks in every city. Theaters added midnight showings to accommodate demand. The Dirty Dozen became the highest-grossing film of 1967, earning over $40 million domestic and millions more internationally. It proved that audiences and critics lived in completely different worlds. The establishment hated it. The people loved it. And decades later, the people won. The film is now considered a classic, while those negative reviews are forgotten footnotes in film history. Sometimes the best revenge is longevity. Number 17. Trini Lopez was a pop star, not an actor at all. He had hits on the radio and played sold-out concerts across the country, but zero film experience whatsoever. MGM cast him as Pedro Jimenez, specifically to capitalize on his fame and bring in Latino audiences who knew his music. Lopez showed up eager to prove himself as a serious actor, but he hated the script from day one. His character dies early, senselessly, randomly, in a training accident that serves no purpose. Lopez thought it was a complete waste, that his fans deserved better treatment and more screen time. He complained repeatedly to Robert Aldrich. Aldrich told him bluntly that the point was that war doesn't care about star power or fame. Lopez didn't accept that answer. He demanded rewrites, more screen time, a heroic death scene with meaning. Aldrich refused every request. Tensions escalated daily until Lopez walked off set mid-production and flew back to Los Angeles without warning. The production had to halt for 3 full days while MGM negotiated desperately. Eventually, they let him out of his contract entirely. His scenes were reshot with another actor nobody remembers. Lopez's film career never recovered from that decision. He spent years trying to get back into film, but the walkout haunted him everywhere. Studios saw him as difficult, unreliable, unprofessional, a risk. The Dirty Dozen taught him a hard lesson. Sometimes you get one shot, and if you waste it fighting for more, you lose everything forever. Number 18. The ending was supposed to be triumphant and uplifting. The dozen complete their impossible mission, destroy the chateau, kill the enemy, and escape to safety together. Heroes returning home to parades and medals. But Robert Aldrich hated that version with every fiber of his being. He thought it was dishonest that war doesn't have happy endings or parades, so he killed most of them off brutally, in brutal, random, meaningless ways that served no narrative purpose. Shot in the back by stray bullets, blown up after the mission was already won, gunned down senselessly. The studio was absolutely furious when they saw it. They said audiences needed closure, hope, something to feel good about when leaving theaters. Aldrich said that's the problem with war movies. They lie to make people comfortable with violence. He refused to change a single frame. Lee Marvin backed him up completely, threatened to walk if they forced changes. They shot the ending Aldrich's way, and test audiences hated it passionately. MGM threatened to force expensive reshoots. Aldrich said, "Fine, fire me, but I won't shoot anything different." The studio blinked first. The ending stayed exactly as filmed. And over time, critics realized it was the film's greatest strength and most honest moment. The Dirty Dozen didn't celebrate war or violence. It showed its true cost. Those deaths weren't heroic or meaningful. They were waste. And that brutal honesty made the film timeless. Number 19. Years after release, veterans started writing letters to MGM Studios. Not complaints or angry protests, but confessions and thank yous. They said The Dirty Dozen was the first war film that actually felt real to them. Not the tactics or the historical accuracy, but the attitude and spirit, the dark humor, the resentment toward incompetent officers, the bond between misfits, the sense that survival mattered more than glory or medals. One letter from a Vietnam vet said watching the film helped him process what he'd been through because it didn't romanticize anything or lie. Robert Aldrich kept every single letter in a box. He said those responses meant more than any award because they came from people who'd actually lived through combat. The film influenced military culture too in unexpected ways. Dirty Dozen became slang for problem units or specialist teams nobody wanted. Elite forces adopted the war paint aesthetic for night operations. The idea that criminals could be effective soldiers, that the system's rejects might be its best weapons. It resonated through generations of military thinking. The Pentagon still refuses to endorse the film officially or allow it on bases. But soldiers embraced it anyway because sometimes the most anti-establishment art becomes the most authentic tribute to what war actually is. Number 20. After The Dirty Dozen wrapped production, the cast scattered back to their separate careers and lives. But they stayed connected in ways most film casts don't. Lee Marvin hosted annual reunions at his Malibu beach house. Charles Bronson sent Christmas cards every year. Jim Brown called regularly to check in on everyone. They'd survived something together, not just a difficult production, but a genuine battle of wills against studios, critics, and their own massive egos. Robert Aldrich said making the film aged him 5 hard years, but he'd do it again in a heartbeat without hesitation. The commercial success spawned 3 made-for-TV sequels in the 80s trying to recapture magic. None of the original cast returned for any of them. None came remotely close to capturing the original's raw energy or honesty. Because The Dirty Dozen wasn't just about the script or the budget or the explosions or stunts. It was about a perfect moment when everything aligned, flawed men playing flawed characters in a film that refused to pretend war was anything other than dirty, brutal, and wasteful. 50 years later, it still hits hard because it never apologized for what it was. Bonus fact. Ben Carruthers played Glenn Gilpin, a quiet member of the Dozen with barely any lines or screen time. After filming wrapped, he went to a local bar in London to celebrate with some crew members. 2 military policemen walked in, saw him sitting there, and immediately arrested him without explanation. Confused and terrified, Carruthers was dragged to a military holding cell and locked up. Turns out the MPs had seen him in full combat costume on set weeks earlier during location shooting and thought he was actually an AWOL American soldier hiding in England. They'd been actively hunting him ever since. Carruthers tried desperately to explain he was an actor. They didn't believe a word of it. It took 3 long hours, multiple frantic phone calls to the production office, and Robert Aldrich personally driving to the base and vouching for him before they finally let him go. The MPs apologized sheepishly. Carruthers laughed about it later, saying he'd been so convincing as a criminal that actual real military police wanted to lock him up in prison. In a film full of blurred lines between acting and reality, that might be the ultimate compliment to his performance.